We had a chance to talk to Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman ahead of a very important offseason, and I'm going to tell you the 5 things that you need to know from what they said. Let's start at number 5, and this is a Howie Roseman answer, and that is about the tight end position. Asked about, a new offensive scheme with Sean Mannion. Are the Eagles going to have to look for something different at some of the key positions, both up front and on the edges? And tight end, Howie said something interesting, which is that the tight end position this offseason requires an evolution from me, speaking about himself. And what he means by that is, in the past, he has more often looked for tight ends who bring receiving value. Just think about the guys who were on the roster last year, Dallas Goedert, Frank Calcaterra, a lot of consternation about their blocking ability. He knows that moving forward, he needs to add some tight ends to this room who can block. And so that doesn't necessarily mean not bringing back Dallas Goedert. I would expect the Eagles are going to have, 2 tight ends on the field plenty this season. But for a room that has only E.J. Jenkins under contract right now, the Eagles have a lot of work to do at tight end. Howie Roseman acknowledging that he needs to find a slightly different type of player, at least 1 or 2 of them this offseason. Number 2, let's talk A.J. Brown. Both Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman asked about A.J. Brown. Of course, they would love to have a very good player. Their understanding is A.J. wants to be here, which is what they said at least. But also, Howie Roseman said, quote, "We are always listening." So I think we all know what that means. If the Eagles get a blow-away offer for A.J. Brown, they might be incentivized to take it. He's also talking about players like Tanner McKee when it comes to things like that. If the right offer is out there, they're always going to listen. The phone lines are always open, but they are not in the business of subtracting great players from the roster. Sort of status quo there, but they said what they needed to say. Number 3, expect the running game to look a lot different. And I say that because Nick Sirianni was talking about the hunt for Sean Mannion, and what really attracted him to the scheme was specifically the running game. And he talked about how there's so much talk these days about offensive philosophy, and in the passing game, teams doing this progression passing because it allows them to have answers post-snap for what the defense is throwing at them. He thinks that what this offense brings is that same element in the running game, and that is in concert with the Eagles moving on from Jeff Stoutland. They didn't want him to be the run game coordinator anymore. Jeff Stoutland said, "You know what? That's fine. I'm good. I'm not going to just be the offensive line coach." And so that led to that divorce. But the Nick Sirianni is very invested in this running game looking a lot different. He also explained the situation there with Jeff Stoutland, saying that things changed a little bit midseason with Nick getting more involved in the running game, became more of a collaborative process, as he said. Obviously, that was not exactly how things were done the first half of the season. Number 2, don't expect a huge outside splash in free agency from the Eagles. Now, Howie Roseman will always be looking to make some kind of major splash. If that is going to come from somewhere else in the league and not a re-signing of a player like Jalen Phillips, it's likely to come from a trade. Every indication is that the Eagles are not in love with this free agent class. And I would say that Howie Roseman has made it very clear that he knows that sustainable success in the NFL comes from drafting well, re-signing your own players, even though the Eagles will not be able to re-sign all of the very good players they have on their roster, especially on defense, who are coming up for extensions or free agency. Number 1, the thing you need to know is that Nick Sirianni was very truthful about the fact that the offensive coordinator search did not turn out exactly the way that he expected it to before entering the process. He said initially he thought, "I wanted an experienced play caller." And after going through the process, he interviewed upwards of 17 people. Mannion kept coming up, and that the experience became less important. He was also not necessarily looking for someone who ran the Shanahan-McVay type scheme, but the more work he did, the more enamored with that scheme he did become. And so Sean Mannion was obviously not the Eagles' top choice from the very beginning, but as they worked their way through the process, he did become their top choice, obviously. And as for the reporting that other candidates were not super interested in coming to work in the Eagles building, as far as Sirianni is concerned, they hired someone who is very excited to be in the building, and I think we all expect a much different offense from the Eagles in 2026. For much more on what we learned from Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni, tune into today's PHLY Eagles show. We'll see you then.